Hi, and welcome to Conversations with Cherie, where I have real conversations with real people in real life and real time. Today is a special conversation. I'm going to bring on my special guest, Melanie Brittingham. Hey, Mel.
Hey, Cherie. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. I'm super excited to have this conversation. This is a conversation that is overdue. I thank God and I thank you for your obedience, for your strength, because I was so nervous to even ask you to have a conversation about such a thing. And today I want the audience to know that the conversation is about the opioid epidemic. I'm talking to my classmate, my friend, that had up close and personal experiences with the results of the incidents of opioids. And the thing is that I feel like we don't discuss things. We've become passive in this day and age, and her boldness to come out and have the conversation that is well needed, and just the strength.
Thank you.
And I thank you for that. So I'm gonna let you have the floor. You can, converse, because I don't want to begin your story because it's your story. I will come in and, converse about, some experiences and things that I, see or endure and hear, but nothing, I can't tell your story.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, when Clarence started taking Percocets.
Okay.
So I remember when that happened. It was a year and a half before his death.
And how old was he then?
He would have been 21.
When he started?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I could tell that he was all messed up, and I said, "Son, what is wrong with you?" And he said, "Oh, I popped a perk. Like it was cool."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "That's not cool." And he's like, "I'm good." I said, "They're going to grab you and they're going to take a hold of you and they're not going to let you go." And he said, "Oh, not me." Because if anybody knew Clarence, he was invincible. Everybody loved him. He was a big teddy bear.
Right.
He did smoke marijuana, but that was about it that he did. So after that, he was probably dillying with them. And then somehow he got introduced to heroin. And when he got introduced to heroin, it really hooked him. There was days that he cried and didn't want to do it and needed help. And we take him to the hospital, and there's not many resources around here unless you put him in rehab. And he didn't have insurance, and it just was a big, huge cycle. So
that's amazing, because I read not long ago that Governor Hogan, it was 2018. I'm not for sure how much they have now, but it was like $32 billion that they had set aside for this emergency, opioid epidemic. So if that's the case, and someone is in need, and someone has an addiction and needs help, insurance is a qualification for this?
Yes. Well, to go to a clinic, you need insurance. To go to a rehab, you need insurance. That's what they kept saying.
Right.
And then, like, the clinics, to me, they're just replacing it with another drug.
Right. Is that still Suboxone? Are they?
No, I think it's methadone.
Okay. Because I know years
I
ago.
know there is I think it's a choice.
Yes.
So I think there's some methadone clinics, there's some Suboxone clinics.
Right. Years ago, I worked for a psychiatrist's office that also held a drug treatment center also in the evenings, and that was a choice. The Suboxone was part of the rehab, but this was check in, check out.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times the moms would call and say, I've signed my son up, but they won't come, and it's like, okay, as an adult, no one can force them.
Right.
At that point, I've had moms that would drop them off and they wouldn't go, and so it's something. What do you say to that mom that's doing all they can, and they've taken them to rehab, they check themselves out, and
keep trying, and don't enable them. Like, I enable Clarence There's lots, he'd get in trouble. I feel like I should have told the judge, like, just keep him in jail for a while, do something to where he's not out on these streets.
I'm hearing what you just said. What you just said is something I don't think a lot of parents or people will say. You said I was enabling him. And I hear that in situations, not just drugs, in different things with our children as mothers. When we love our kids so much, we love them in their mess, and we don't tell them. And that's big when you can say, yes, this is what I did. Because it's that mother listening now that's doing just that.
Yes.
And, I've heard them say they feel guilty. If they can't help, they feel bad. Or if they say no, they don't want them there, they feel bad. The guilt and the pain that comes with that.
So true. And I think a lot of the problems with the clinics and stuff, if you're an addict, you're drugging at nighttime usually, and you're sleeping during the daytime.
Okay.
So there's not really anything, when they wake up from their sleep and they're sick and they're crying for help, what do you do at 12 o'clock at night? What do you do at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
You really can't do anything. You can take them to the hospital, which we had on numerous occasions.
Sure.
And they just put an IV in you and just leave you in a room.
Right.
So then that, he's getting frustrated because
There was no real solution.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know that you constantly hear, well, take someone to rehab, but I think still, even after, to me, that's with prison. When people spend a period of time in prison, when people spend a period of time in rehab or any type of facility, they have to be trained all over again. The mind has to change, and it has to be support group, from how I live to how I think to how I speak to where I go to what I eat to what I do. Your friends have to change, your environment has to change, your atmosphere has to change. And being, a lot of young kids, followers, everybody, you're following. We were just having a discussion about the music that they have that is totally different from what we had. And now I can relate to when our parents would say, oh, listen at what you're listening to, because it's like, oh, you don't know good music. But they were hearing what we weren't hearing. Like now we're hearing what they aren't hearing. Because when you're having someone in a song telling you about popping pills and getting high, and then some even speaking death over themselves, saying that I'm going to die before such and such, and then the young man, of course, I don't know much, so don't hold me accountable, music lovers. I know nothing about the rappers or who's really out now, but I know it was a rapper that died, was like 20 something, not what he was like in his early 20s. And it's like, drugs and death are almost getting glorified. But one thing you said that caught my attention when you said he thought he was invincible. And that's the case. My sister friend is a nurse, and they talk about how, and a lot of nurses and a lot of doctors say when people come and then they give them the shot, and then that gives them to say, that might come into play of them thinking they're invincible because they've made it to that place in the nick of time. But then when you don't, and I don't think, people think of that if it doesn't happen. And addiction is a stronghold, and people want to say, well, they need to get themselves together. No. That thing, like you said, you warn him. Warning comes before destruction. You warned them. What'd you say? This thing will get a hold of you.
Not let you go.
And not let you go. And that's what's going on. That's what we're watching. And, I'm watching and I'm praying, because I can't, what can you do? And so I kept saying I didn't know what my next show was going to be, but I knew it couldn't be something that wasn't dear to my heart. Because when I see people that I, grew up with or hung out with, and I see a different them when I see them now, and my heart gets heavy because I know that's not really them. And I know inside they are dying to be free. they don't want to be in that place as much as people may look and say, well, they made a choice.
They made a choice,
That
right.
they didn't wake up saying, this is what I want from me, you know. And I think that's a heartless thing to say. I just want that maybe you and other mothers can have some type of solution, some type of foundation to like help other mothers, as well as help mothers who are dealing in the moment of this thing right now. Because people, I don't know, until it hits their front door, it doesn't kind of become their problem.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't think about it at all.
And you know, like we said, we grew up, you know, when the crack era, people were selling crack, smoking crack, and in the neighborhoods that I grew up in, that's what I saw. And you know, it's partly your norm, but you always say, I'm going to get out, and that's not going to be me. But you always knew someone that it was attached to. You always knew someone that did not make it out of that situation. So I just want that not only my voice be heard, but that your voice be heard on the behalf of your son.
Yeah.
Because he's not here to speak. But I know at the end of the day, you want to see other people free from this. Because that's your heart. Like your heart, you have a big heart. So you said that that's what your son had.
He was my best friend.
He was a lot like you then. Because, you know, we know that's who you were. I love a good laugh, but got a big heart.
Thank you.
And your heart for people has always been the same. This has just driven it to be even deeper now, especially with the younger people, because people don't really listen to people that don't have the proof about it. You're living proof of, I know what this can do to you, you know. So what are, you know, do you have any plans? Do you want to start a foundation or anything?
I would like to do something. I had sat on it for a year, and I've talked to the DARE officers when it first happened.
Okay.
And they had mentioned like me speaking in some places.
Right.
But I had to kind of let it sink into me before I
Sure.
jumped out there.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I am in contact with a lot of kids, and I do preach to them all the time. They
Sure.
probably are tired of hearing me. But, yeah, I would
But
like
you're
to do
true.
something, because it could take one pill to make them become
Right.
addicted. Or 14 days of taking opiates. Say they're prescribed to you for 14 days.
Okay.
Then your body is addicted to it.
Okay.
And it's not just a mental thing. You're physically, like I watched Clarence, like he had the flu 10 times worse than you get the flu. You know, the body aching, the throwing up, the going to the bathroom. And it doesn't stop until they do the drug again. And then they feel better. So that's the whole vicious
The
cycle about it.
sickness.
It's, yeah. So, you know, even though they're crying and they know it's not them and they don't want to be like that,
Right.
their body needs that drug. Now, if they would go through the sickness, they say it takes about 7 full days to actually get it out of your system. But they feel like
The
they're going
fight.
to die. Yeah.
It's the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine. And I've seen, you know, I've been places and I've seen people that could barely move. They were paralyzed, and I'm just like, oh my God, what do you do with
What do you
this?
do? And, you know, I got Narcan certified.
Did
Me
you?
and India both, because when he started doing it, I was like, what if I
Wow.
find my son? And I did find him.
You found
I
him?
found him, and it was too late. The Narcan would have done nothing. They ended up coming and shooting him with Narcan, and I did CPR on him till they came, and he was already gone. But you know, you think you're going to have the safety. I'm going to get Narcan certified
Look at
just in
that.
case, and
That is
you know,
the key enabler. You and your daughter got certified because I'ma still save his life.
save his life
I'ma
if
be
he-
there. You know, and that's a mother's love. I can't sit and say you should have known, but I can't say
yeah, I
that.
have a what ifs, like I should have done this and I should have done that. But to know Clarence also, he was going to do what he wanted to.
Right, and he was an adult.
He was an adult. He was stubborn. He was going to do what he wanted to. I couldn't have made him do anything different than probably what happened, unless I like tied him up and drug him there. You know, and then it is enabling. Enabling is a bad thing. You're so afraid. Like, I think you're so afraid you're going to disappoint your child by calling the police on them. You know, or, you know, I'm going to call the police and he's going to get in so much trouble. Well, I wish he was in jail and not dead.
Sure.
You know?
Absolutely.
So that's the things that people got to think about is at least
he's alive.
He's alive.
In
He could
jail.
or he could have been mad at me and not talk to me forever. But at least he would have been alive.
Yeah, but as a mom, you know, you've been that mom. You loved your kids like you were young when you had them. I remember when they
22,
were
I had parents.
Little. They were little people. So when I would see them, I'm like, those are Melanie kids. And I'm like, they bigger than her. But I just saw the bond and the closeness when I did see that they were right. That was your right hand. And to see that and to know and to feel, like I said, when I heard, I was like, wow. Because first thing when they said Clarence, and I was like, I only know one young kid named Clarence. I said, that must be Melanie's son. And of course the kids, I don't know the mom's name, but that's how we relate to whose child it is. And I said, no, that's my classmate. And they said, oh, okay. And I said, yeah. And then I later found out, yes, that was her son. And I said, oh my God, because I see people in the state, but I've never had a relationship with anyone from that state.
Right.
You know, I don't know, you know, when you hear about people, they overdosed or something, I didn't know anyone. It didn't matter. I still felt some type of way. I felt like as a mom, you feel like, oh my God, because that could be anybody's kid, anybody's niece, nephew, you know, and we're just, I don't know, because they keep saying they're cracking down, but I'm just taken back of the process of the help.
I feel like, well, for one, I feel like I know that addiction and mental health are hand in hand.
Yes.
Clarence had a lot of mental health issues.
Yes.
And, you know, you can go to the hospital and be on the edge, be ready to hurt yourself or whatever, you're having a nervous breakdown. And they have a person from mental health that comes and evaluates you.
Okay.
So why couldn't they put that in place for addiction?
And you
because when the person goes into the hospital, they want help.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if there was some kind of program with addiction, and they say, hey, we can get you a bed at a rehab, they probably would accept it because for them to break down and go to the hospital,
right,
they're really at a breaking point where they wanted some help. Yeah.
And I've heard people say, you know, I had to hit that point. And, you know, there are stories of the overcomers. You know, I've met people that said, hey, this is a good story. And that's all fine for me to tell at another time. But I needed to talk about in the thick of it, the victims, the family that it affected, you know, how to move forward after this, you know, how to pull yourself back together. And Melanie learned to live again, you know, never forgetting your son. But now, how do I live? How do I go on?
Yeah, I feel like I've always felt like everything happens for a reason. And there's a purpose in everything. So I've always felt like there's a purpose in his death. And I have seen two of his friends that he hung out with then during those times are now clean.
Oh,
so that's a blessing right there.
Absolutely.
You know, he's helped two close friends
and you
gain their lives back.
The biggest thing, and that takes something to say that I know that in his death there is a purpose behind this, because there's a purpose for everything, even though the pain may be, you know, like, I don't believe, you know, that may not be what you seen at first.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure it had to take something to get there. Because I was so skeptical because I was like, I don't know how to approach someone that's lost a child through a topic that I want to talk about, because you have to be sure that they're ready to have the conversation and prepared to have the conversation. And this has taken over not just the teens. You have adults, grown working adults. And there was a video on YouTube a few months ago or so. It was a nurse actually working, and she was high, and she was on her shift, and she was working and nodding out, and I said, this thing has gotten a hold of the world.
The world, yeah.
It's not just teens, it's not just adults, it's across the board. And they say, the pharmacists and the pharmaceutical companies. And, I notice even with when you go to the emergency room and you're in pain, they want to give you the heaviest thing a lot of times. And I remember I had an injury. I can't remember what it was off the top, but they offered like Oxycontin or something really strong, and I was like, oh no. I'm like, they laugh because I'm like, no,
Yeah.
just ibuprofen.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, Miss Warren, we don't have anything in your record saying you're a drug user. No,
Yeah, it doesn't
I'm
matter.
okay with this.
I don't want to become that.
Right, and I'm not a big person on, anyone who knows me, I'm not a big person on pain medicine. I don't like, I'm like, no, you take what you can. But I notice if it's that simple, when you go to an emergency room, to a hospital for a treatment, and this is how it turns out. And that's what I've seen. This is what happens, and now this is what the epidemic that they're calling it. But then you have to be able to have a restraint on this. It shouldn't be that easy to get.
His brother Raheem got into a motorcycle accident 6 months after his death and broke his femur. So we were in shock trauma, and I remember talking to the doctor after he had his surgery, and I said, please do not prescribe him Percocets or opiates, because I just lost his brother to an addiction. And what do they do? He needs these Percocets, but he doesn't. A little ibuprofen will help you. Because once you start taking it, and luckily that he didn't, because he lost his brother.
Right.
But, he's still going to pain management.
Sure.
Months later. So what if he still was taking these pills?
Right.
He would be addicted by now to them. It's very scary.
When you gave that warning,
yeah. I begged him, please, just give him some 800 ibuprofens. But he's like, he broke his femur in half.
Right, and he's saying, oh, you don't know how much pain he's in, and you're like, but this causes another kind of pain in my house,
right. He can get through that pain. It's not that serious. Yeah, I had a gallbladder taken out, and they gave me Dilaudid, which is morphine and Percocets in one pill. And it just straight knocked me out. And after taking them for a minute, I said, I need to just take ibuprofen. And the doctor was like, oh my. Really? That's all you need? And I'm thinking...
Isn't that something? That's all you need.
That's all
like
you
he
need.
Was ready to say, I got something else for you, almost like a pusher.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's, and it's that easy. And it's just, I don't know, I'm in awe that how easy it is to get. Of course, drugs on the streets have been drugs on the streets before. And it's crazy because one thing escalated from another to another. But it's like, okay, people's lives were being lost with crack and everything else, and suddenly I'm like, okay, so we can't do purple for 30 days or 7 days or whatever. No, it's every day. Every day. It's some type of deal every day, pray every day, talk about it every day, help somebody every day, because it's not going away without people like you speaking up, talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like some things are, we always laugh. We say, growing up, we would hear people, well, what goes on in this house stays in this house, Well, this is one of these things that needs to come outside of the house, and that we need to discuss, because it's in a lot of houses now.
A lot of houses.
And, shame and embarrassment should be the last thing that you're concerned when it's someone's life.
Yeah, I am not, and if someone says, how did your son pass?
Oh,
I don't care who they are. I tell them the truth.
Right.
He overdosed, and some people look at me like
what?
Like, I don't know, like, it's hard, like, not a disappointment, but like, oh, your son overdosed.
Oh.
Like, it's just like death is different because he overdosed.
No, to me, it's always sad immediately. It's like, oh my God, because, life was taken way early, too soon. And in most cases, you're like, wow, it's a wow. Like, oh my God, they didn't get to live. They missed out on life.
He left 2 babies behind. He has a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old daughters that are here without a father. And he was a good father. Wow. He loved them girls. But the The other problem is, they get these Percocets and then they can't afford them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they go to dope.
Okay.
Because apparently you can go to Baltimore and get a capsule for like $5. Now in this capsule, you're playing Russian roulette.
Because that's the fentanyl, right?
It's the fentanyl.
Gotcha.
There was not even any heroin in Clarence's system. It was fentanyl and something like Xanax.
Mm-hmm.
It's a prescription drug, but it's illegal in the United States,
Wow.
and it's like 40 times more potent than Xanax.
Oh my God.
And if you put a Xanax and an opiate together,
Right.
they're a deadly combination.
Absolutely.
So he literally had a death
Right.
pill. So that's the sad thing. They don't
And
really
you don't know what you. That's it. You don't know.
Even with pills, people make pills. So these kids could think that they're going and buying a Percocet and they're safe because it's a Percocet, but really somebody made that.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I had a friend that his wife took one. He bought it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
His wife took one, a 5 milligram, and overdosed because it was a pill that someone made. And it was probably fentanyl or something in it. But he's thinking he's buying some Percocets.
That
It's scary.
it's beyond scary. Because you said it, Russian roulette. Because you don't know what you're going to
Don't
get.
know what you're going to get.
And you don't know if this is the end for you. And I don't know. Because there was one... It's this one pastor, his name is Bishop George Bloomer. He's out of North Carolina. And he used to shoot heroin. And he tells a story and he talks about it. And I always say, God isn't a respecter of no person. He didn't just deliver him for him. And it is an answer. It is a way out. It is,
It
is, I'm always, my life is my life. Like it or not, scripture is going to just come in my conversations because that's just life with me. And the word of God says through every temptation, God will give you a way of escape. But our choice, we have to choose it. And if we don't choose it, so when there is a way, or when there is that person like Melanie having a conversation with you, not to bring you down, but to let you know this could be you. Take what she's saying. Don't take her conversation lightly to say that, oh, here she goes again. Because I know young people, the minute someone starts to tell you something that doesn't sound so cool and popular, oh God, they're getting on my nerves. Here they go with this. No, she cares about your life. We care about your life. I want to see these young people because they're so intelligent. They're so smart. They're so advanced. I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see them get exactly what they're asking for. You have a daughter that just said she wants to be an esthetician. I'm excited for anything about the beauty industry. I love it. But that's what you want to see. You want to see kids talk about what they want to be, what they want to do.
And I feel like these kids need to finish their schooling.
Oh, absolutely.
And get out of this small town.
Yes.
And that's what I tell all the kids that I see that are in high school.
Yes.
What are you doing when you graduate? And they're like, we're not sure. And I'm like, go to school and get away from here. And if you decide to come back here when you're older,
right.
But there's really nothing here for kids.
But figure out who you are. Dream.
Yeah.
Again, know that it's cool to have dreams and goals and ambitions. It's cool to say, I want to be this when I grow up. So what? They laugh if you don't want to get high, if you don't hang out, if you don't kick it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying I'm not perfect at all. Never was I. Yes, did get high, smoked more weed than the law should allow. I will say that because I never want anyone to think that me having a conversation, trying to encourage somebody to be different, to do different, is because of, oh, well, she didn't do anything, so how can she tell me? I did. It may not have been the same, but across the board, wrong is wrong. There is no in between, oh, well, at least I didn't do this. No, the same troubles could have came about me. That's where grace and mercy set in. But I want this epidemic of the millennials, and who are they, Generation Zs? Okay, I love that. It's funny because I'm like, oh, look at this. I was just always talk about millennials, but it's a Z, Generation Z too. My God, they are so advanced, and you guys know so much, and you have so much to offer. don't throw your life away. And even here, there's so much that they can do.
There is.
Because you can turn every situation around. It doesn't have to stay the way that it is. Here you can make groups, you can do things. You just have to have the right mindset.
Yes.
Because if your mind is the same mindset, I can't have the same mindset I had in 94. That would be trouble in 2020. I don't even know if I would be here with that same mindset. I always tell people, if your mind doesn't change, your situation won't change. So while you're here and enjoying life and in school, figure it out. It was fun saying, I'm going to be this when I grow up. This is what I want to do. It's nothing wrong with having a plan.
Right.
It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you, and corny. No, corny was getting high. Like, who made that cool to get high to kill yourself, where that was cool? I'm just going to be honest. We're not having honest conversations with our kids. We've become passive. I said that to you earlier. I didn't realize how passive in some things I have become, because you'll say, oh, that's okay. They'll grow out of it. This will happen. It'll change. That's being passive, because we're not coming to the source and we're not dealing with the issue. It doesn't mean head on that, oh, I'm going to stop it right now. But when we don't have a conversation about certain things, then our kids feel like, oh, well, they didn't say anything to me about it, and they know I'm doing wrong, but they didn't say anything. So, oh, well, I did things in my mom's house that was not nice. And when she said something, kids, and I'm sure your somebody did it, went off and let you know about it. And I did repeatedly, apologize to my mom for my behavior and my actions. And thankfully that she loved me enough to tell me who I was, a mess. Like, get yourself together. She said, this is not going to end good for you. She would tell me something is going to come out of this where your life will end in a bad way, and I don't want it to end like that for you. And I'd be like, oh, you over the top, right, and that's crazy, because we thought, even like your son thought, we thought we were invincible. I'm drunk driving, I'm high, I'm running across 3 lanes on 695, not thinking anything could happen to
Reckless.
me. And that's what it was, reckless. And we look at things and we label things, well, my high might not have been his high, but it was a high and it was wrong. And it led to other things, and it led to wrong choices, bad decisions. That's when your mind is under a whole nother level of intoxication and not thinking straight and forward, you will do whatever, because you're not thinking on your own any longer. And we've given up that right to say, I'm grown, I'm going to do what I want, because now we've made choices that we'll have to pay for them, And sometimes, like now, it's costing us the lives of our loved ones.
Yes.
So what do you say to the moms?
I just say, don't enable your children. Be proactive in the situation, and just keep networking and trying to get them help.
Right.
In any kind of way.
Do you talk to other moms that have experienced the same loss?
Have not.
No?
No.
Okay, I have the other mom that I want you to meet. I would love for you two to meet. Because she's experienced what you've experienced, and to just start something. Yeah. I just don't feel like you women had your strength. When I saw her, I saw her the past few Sundays at church, but one Sunday I told her, I said, wow. I said, you look new. I said, you look new. You look refreshed and revived. And, and she said, I know. She said, it took a lot. She said, I tell you, she said, I've heard this before. She said, I'm starting to look like me again. I'm starting to feel like me again. Because I think it's only been like 6 months or so for her. Yeah. And, I can't, like I said, I can't say I understand. But like I say to her and I say to you, I have 2 friends from 2 different walks of life that had the same experience. And I definitely want you two to meet together to be able to build a bridge. Because when things like this happen in the community, instead of other people coming out and saying, hey, this has happened to me, and I think we need a support group. I think we need to have a conversation. I think we need to start something from here. It shouldn't take Okay, look at the Trayvon Martins and all of those. The mom that said, hey, I'm not going to sit down with this. I'm not going to keep quiet about this. I'm going to, benefit other mothers. So she goes and she talks to other mothers that experienced what she's experienced. And I'm sure that this is going to happen with you because you've already taken the first step with me. And I'm thankful for that because you didn't have to. Sharing this, that had to be big. And I just wanted to have the conversation so that people would, when they turn the channel, they're not going to see, I always say I'm not going to be the average show that's on, even though it's basic, free, whatever. When you flick through, I'm not wasting my time on here talking about something that's not going to be beneficial to somebody. The one person that flicks through and says, oh my God, this is me, this is my story,
touches one
this
person.
is right. And that's what I say, if one person can walk away and say, I saw that show with that mother on there, and I want to be able to reach out to her, I want her to be able to help me, talk me through this, because there are mothers that are sitting behind and saying, I don't know what else to do.
And I'm here for anybody that wants to reach out. I'm here.
Well, you have to tell them about, find you on Facebook.
You can find me on Facebook. Mel Britt is my name on Facebook. I don't have any other social media.
Facebook.
Just Facebook.
They will find you on Facebook. Look, I know, but Facebook will get you. The right people will find you, and you will find the right people. And being out in the public eye and people knowing your son, that's where it is. It's outside of the walls of the house. Like we say it at church, it's outside of the walls of the church. It's outside.
It was amazing how many people he has touched. The one thing you don't think as a mother is you're going to plan your son's funeral.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And how much it costs.
Yeah.
So we start planning the funeral, and Clarence was a big boy. So he had to have the largest casket there was.
Wow.
And that alone was $5,000.
Oh my God.
So altogether it was probably like $15,000 that we scrambled around for 2 weeks, and then somehow God placed it on us. My people that I hadn't talked to in 20 years were coming up to me like, hey Melanie, I want you to take this, put it towards the funeral. Like, it just was amazing how much I was supported and my son was supported.
And that's the thing, that same thing that's going to draw people again to this. I keep calling it a foundation, so somewhere along the line a foundation is about to break out of this, because I'm calling it, the word says call those things that be not as though they are. So I'm calling this a foundation, because I believe that there needs to be a safe house, a safe place for mothers, siblings. Like your daughter, she's going to be able to help other siblings to deal with what she had to cope with and how she went through it, because younger people have their own dialogue or none at all, because they won't talk, because they don't feel like they're being heard. And that's one thing I want to make sure that I hear what they're saying, because when you have young people in your house, you kind of like want to know, well, what does this mean? What are they saying? Because the slang and whatever
my kids
using,
get so mad at me because I'm like, what is that?
What is that? I say the same
and then
thing.
I'll say it, and they're like, Mom, don't do that.
Yeah, no. I get that a lot, Mom.
Mom.
And I always say, well, I don't want to be cool. I just want to relate to situations and things that you're saying, so that, I need to know in atmospheres when certain words are being used exactly what they mean.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be the cool mom. I'm never trying to be cool again, ever.
Right.
I know exactly who I am, and I'm happy being her. I'm excited about who I'm becoming, because in life you grow through things, and had I not went through those things that I went through, I wouldn't be able to have a conversation and be passionate about things like this, because people will say, well, that doesn't concern me, but it does concern me, because I'm passionate about lives and souls, and I want to see people healed, and I want to see people whole. I want to see people live again. Like, your life is not over. How old was your son?
22, 20 past.
At 22, that's not the end all be all that God has for us when there's greater things, but when things like this get in the way, You know, the saying, when I grew up, it takes a village to raise a child. And we need to form the villages again.
Yes.
The villages need to be brought back.
They
Those
do.
moms that went to get your kids when they were out of order and say, hey, let's go home.
The neighbor that watched out for
that
you.
saw everything, that you got mad because of the nosy neighbor always in the business. But guess what? That nosy neighbor was protecting you.
Yeah.
You know, and it got on your nerves. Oh, God, she's always looking out the window. They see everything. Yeah, they told your mom you let them boys in their house, you know, because your mom didn't want you to end up with kids.
Right.
And didn't want you to do things that you weren't supposed to do at certain ages, you know. And we took for granted those things. So now no one wants to say anything to anybody else's kid because of the way people react and respond. But things, if you say things out of love, we have to know that love is the foundation of everything. And when people are coming to your kids saying, hey, don't do that, it's not a disrespect. It's, I want more for you than this. You know, we don't want to see people, I don't want to see your kids out sassing other grown-ups. You know, you kind of shy away and like, you know, and I don't say that's being passive, but you don't know really what to expect on the other end now. So that's where the village has to step up and say, listen, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're not going to accept, you know, and be able to train our children into young men and women, you know, to understand that it's other ways to be cool besides bringing harm to your temple. You know, I always tell people, don't get it wrong, gluttony is a sin. That's a big sin. And I love, you know, I say that like eating, that's a sin. Gluttony is a sin, not eating, but overeating and overindulging. So it's so many things we like to categorize, what we want to pick and choose and how we want to label things. You know, when you said people were so, when you said how your son died, and to me, death is death. That means they're no longer here. You know, something saddened you a little more. That's what would have been, you know, sadness, but not as in, you know, as a snub.
Right.
You know, there's no separation in that. That's where we have to bring the love back into the community, because we have to love people past what we see and not judge them. When we do see those that are struggling with addictions, it's not supposed to, you know, the snub. Sometimes, like I always tell people, a simple God loves you sometimes works. My kids got to see one Sunday that happened where we saw a guy and he was, you know, having his time, and we just went by and I was going on and I saw him again. I was like, oh God, let's go. Trying to get the little girls past because I didn't really want them to experience that. So on the way by, I was like, hey, you know, God loves you. And he just began to talk, and it was my daughter and our little cousin, and they were like, oh, they liked the fact that you got to say that to somebody in that state, to know, and it was to show them that no matter what state somebody is in, you love them in that state. You know, it's one thing, like you said, you don't want to be aiding, you know, them in this situation, but love them enough to say, you know, whatever it is that you feel that you need to say at that moment. But again, I'm just going to say thank you so much. I think this is the beginning of something good for you. I really do. I feel like people will begin to reach out and maybe want to have a conversation with you, and things that, you know, we couldn't touch on at all in this period of time. But just to hear you say, you know, listen, moms, I need you guys to pay attention. I need you to open your mouth. I need you to say something.
See the signs.
And what signs did you see? Because,
well, he was honest with me. So I knew that he did it.
Right.
Clarence was like an open book to me. Like I said, he was like my best friend. I think he told me stuff because it relieved him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if he did something wrong, I'll tell my mom.
Right.
Then that
because that was your relationship.
Right. So, but you know, if someone is on an opiate, they're kind of slow. Like they're slow motion, and they will nod out, and they could just say they're sleepy. But it's just, I can tell. If someone comes up to me and talks to me, I can tell if they're on something. It's just the manner of how they speak.
Right.
Just a slower speech, you know. And the ones that you see that are really walking around crazy, they're on not just a Percocet.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're on heroin or like the mollies that are a mixture of drugs and a pill, which are cool in the songs nowadays too.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah. So just be aware, read up on it. Know what the drugs do to your kids and how they act when they're on them. You know, if they're sleeping all day and up all night,
Right.
there's probably a problem.
Yeah, one man told me, he said since he was 13 years old, and it was the from cocaine to you name it, and he got himself together. He said, one day I was in Baltimore, and I was living under the bridge, and the thing was his brother had died, 33 overdose needle in his arm, and he said I went back to Baltimore when he was living under the bridge and just sleeping out with the homeless, and he said he put his head on the curb just to he's like, I'm done, I'm tapped out, I don't even want to be here. And the car that was coming to hit him, and then he knew in that moment, he went and went into a halfway house, went and got the help that he needed. And it was a battle, but I've had people tell me, I've taken them to the place and they check themselves out. And I said, my answer to everything is pray.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say, oh, well, it's in a book. It is in a book, in the 66 books. That's it. That's bottom line, because I know it's nothing but God that kept you, that you still have your right mind, that you're still sane, that you still have the strength to sit here and have a conversation.
I was off the next day, and I went straight back to work.
To keep
my sanity, because there's no need to hide under a rock and be depressed.
Right, and that's what somebody needs to hear.
The sad thing, it is what it is. I lost my son, but life moves on.
Wow.
So, and people think, are you okay? And I am okay. I have my moments.
Sure.
I cry a lot.
Sure.
I probably cry every day. Little things trigger it.
Remind you of them. Sure.
Yeah, but I suck it back up and had my little crying spell. I talk to him a lot. I see we say his daughter Callie, she's 3. She says Daddy's on the moon.
Oh.
So when the moon comes out, there's Daddy up on the moon. But it's hard, but you just can't. You gotta keep moving.
I do. I admire your strength, because I didn't even know, when I was messaging you, I didn't know. And then after, I think I saw, because I'm not logged on Facebook, I'll log myself in and out. And I think after I asked you, I saw the message that you said it was just a year. I said, oh my God, I'm messaging this girl and asking her, and it's just been a year. So, to me, that was fresh wounds. I didn't know. And I said, well, hey, God, I'm out there now, so only she can say yes or no, but I would totally, like I said, I would have totally respected for you to say, no, I'm not ready, and I would have understood that, and I probably would have waited on that, because I feel like so many times I see people talking, I hear the doctors talking, I hear the cancel people talking, I see the people doing the purple, and I don't even know their experiences personally, what they've encountered, but to have a person to walk that and deal with that, and then to say that you and your daughter got certified to save your own kid's life, this speaks volumes of what needs to be said and done in this community, and it's opening a door for a conversation for other mothers that are feeling your pain, may not have lost their son or their daughter yet, but they may feel like they're losing them. Yeah. So I pray that somebody does reach out to you. And I pray that their pride doesn't get in the way to say, well, I don't want her in my business. I don't want her looking at me this way, or my child doesn't need her help. It's not about that.
Yeah, I'm not a judgmental person at all. So anybody can come to me, and I will never, ever judge anything they say to me, because life is life. Anything can happen to anybody. Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes people always say, my circle is this and my circle is that, or I only have this in my circle. I tell people, you need to have people in your circle that will tell you the truth about you. Tell you what's wrong, even when it hurts. Tell you, I'm not cool with how this is going. You're not yourself. I need people in my circle, in my life, that will be as honest with me as I try to be with them. Yeah. I need them to say, that's not your disposition. Your attitude is real different today. Or when things start changing and your friends say something's different about you.
Yeah, what's going on?
You know, or when you see your friends or your children changing crowds and hanging with people and doing things that you know they normally wouldn't do, you know, my mom called those things out with me with certain things, with certain, you know, you went with certain people and did certain things, and certain people you didn't go around and do certain things. You knew what you were doing. And it's not about, okay, you're going to do what you want. Yes, you sure are. But when you do things and you affect not just you, that's something to think about. Because I didn't think about anyone but myself when I was in that place. You know, it was just about what I wanted and how I wanted to feel. And you said something, because I'm in school right now for to be a mental health therapist. And the thing you said that we talked about last week was that mental health and drug addictions. Actually, someone did a presentation on it because she was brave enough to do the presentation about her sister with her dealings with opioids and mental health issues, and they go hand in hand, and they do. And a lot of people don't deal with that underlining thing. And I always say that I've learned to even change my conversation, because a lot of times we'll say, well, what's wrong with them and why they act like this? And what I've learned to say is what happened to them, because it's something that triggered that trauma that grew up with them. It was something, the pain that caused them to try to numb something, to hide something, to deal with something, or to not deal with something. You know, a lot of things you'll see in your children that you know are familiar. We have to call those things and say, listen, I see it going this way, because I'm so grateful that my mother had a conversation with me. Did I stop some of the things right away? No, but some I had to learn on my own, but some I did say, wow, she just called me this. Like, this is who I'm becoming.
Now, Clarence, I really think he was born with mental health issues. Like, he cried all the time as a baby. He didn't like stimulation. Like, if we walked into Giant or somewhere bright with a lot, he screamed and hollered like he was anxious. It gave him anxiety. He was a very, very hard baby. So I really think that.
And because mental health, I'm thankful that it's been brought to the forefront a lot more, because it was like taboo. Don't you dare. Who's going to see a therapist? Nobody sees a therapist. We just deal with it. That's the way it is.
When I would take him to his doctors, they would say, like, did anybody in your family have mental health issues? Well, I can't tell you that because it was taboo. No one ever went to see anybody.
So how would I know?
Yeah, how would I know?
So yeah, I definitely think, and I just feel like that's something that because I love dealing with people, helping people, and I feel like this is something that I just want to wake up. I wake up loving to, like, encourage people and help people the best way that I can, but also now to get the tools to be able to really, you know, bring both. I'd say it's the best of both worlds, to bring God and education together, and to be able to deal and to help people find a release, you know, because that's what it's about. It's a release. It's some pain, it's some trauma, it's some things that need to be released. And you know, some people, and especially men, they're not very vocal, they're not very verbal, they don't talk about a lot of things, a lot of issues, a lot of pain. So some people hide behind their pain, and you know, that comes out of, sometimes addictions come out of it, many different kind.
Oh yeah, I can see why someone that's depressed would like opiates, because it numbs everything when they're on it. Like, they're just totally numb to society. They're in their own little world. Wow. So I understood probably why he liked it so much.
Doesn't have to care about anything.
Because it took the pain away of whatever he was dealing with. Yeah.
Wow.
Sad. And you look at it now and you're like, you know, when he went to mental health as a child, but you know, when they get an adult,
right, you can't make
them go. So, and you can suggest it and say it helped you as a child,
right?
But
yeah, that is a big deal. Like I said, working for the psychiatrist that I did years ago, You'd have parents say, well, my child had an appointment and they didn't, and I'm trying to get them to come. And I would say, well, how old are they? And it would be an adult age. And I said, oh, ma'am, we can't force them. That's not a law. I said, I thought you were speaking of a child, and they were like, no, it's an adult. And it's sad because those parents were fighting for their kids to get, free. And they've got to want it too.
Definitely.
But I just say prayer can change things. It doesn't matter. Like I said, with the one bishop from North Carolina, he's not the only person in the world that was free from heroin and addictions and is living a free life and is going on to do great things. There are many people, and I want to hear their stories. I do. And it's a time and it's a place, and I will invite. It's so much more, but it's just like I take my time and I think about what I want to speak about, because I don't want to rush into something. This is not a popularity contest.
Right.
And having this conversation is not the easiest thing to do, because people don't want to do it. They want to maybe throw money here and set up centers, but I don't know if they want to actually sit down and deal with the people in that place. In their brokenness, in their low place, and, ask them, what is it that we can do? How do we work a system that says if they don't have the proper insurance, where do we go from here? What do we do? Okay, they may check themselves out, but, it has to be some more than standing, turning a purple light on. So then what happens?
I can say that Easton, and I wasn't aware of this, does have, I guess they're called halfway houses.
Okay, yeah.
And there are a couple in town of Easton, which is a really good thing.
Right.
Because before there was nothing like that. You go to rehab and
that's it.
Then you go back home. So that's a good thing that
once they come from that place. And I just, I pray that something you said today will reach someone, even that person that is struggling with addictions, to say, what do they do when they don't want this anymore? How do they move forward to the next step of their life? What do they do?
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's scary because they're getting younger and younger.
Younger and younger, yes.
They're getting younger and younger.
I manage Denny's. Overnight.
Wow. So you see a lot
I
in the
see a lot. And I see kids that have been to parties that come in there that are in middle school. And what are they doing out at 3:30 in the morning? Partying. And where was this party at? Like, who's letting these kids have parties? But I mean, I wasn't doing it in middle school.
Right.
But, we did the same thing. Some just get caught up in it, and some just don't. But it's like,
that's why I'm still.
But I was hiding from my parents. Now these kids, it's like their parents let them.
The parents came to get you. Our parents would have shut Denny's down and came in there and found you and said, "Hey,
come on.
You belong with me. You're so and so's kid. Yep. You're so and so kid." That's what I mean about the village. That's the village where they would pick you up. We laugh at this sometimes. We all grew up on Graham Street, and if one person came out that had a car to pick up one of the kids that weren't home, and they saw anybody else that lived on the block, everybody got in the car. And I seen times where we would say, "Oh, it's too crowded in here," and they'd be like, "Oh no, you get in." And I would see, it was so funny, it'd be like almost 9 of us piled in one car, taking everybody back home. And that's the village. That's the village that needs to awaken. Because it is success in Easton. It is. It's no way that all these kids are so talented, that they have so many gifts, that they have to leave to make them possible. Sometimes they should want to take back this town and their authority in this place. There was a time when there were block parties here. There was a time, when skating rink was a skating rink. There were times where the movie theaters were, there were arcades, there were things. There were many, many things to do here. And it's like life has gotten saddened. The whole atmosphere is so different now.
Now, the BAM Center seems to be a
Oh,
really great
yes,
thing.
let's not forget that.
Yes.
The one, thank God, the BAM Center is a term in 2020 that is going to make a difference.
I believe so
And
too.
I feel like if the kids go in, they have positive people, positive staff to help encourage and promote positivity among the kids and get them on the right track. So go to the BAM Center, take advantage of a resource.
Yes.
You know, that wasn't always here. And the membership, they said it's what? It's free?
Free.
It's free.
Yeah.
So you have no excuses. Basketball. You know, I remember the basketball games they used to have at Glenwood
Yeah.
at the schools and at Ottawa. They'd be packed
That's
out.
where we'd all go.
And
to.
to hang out. And I want to see Easton. I want to see that Easton
Yeah.
again. Because it's so much going on. Shelton Hawkins, he did the basketball courts over at Ottawa. Like, people are putting money back in the community. Now it's time for us to take advantage of the great things that are in this community. Don't let things go to the wayside. You got Boo Ricks, you got Kelly Gibson. We have so many people in this area that are trying to make a difference, trying to make the kids see beyond what they see. And it can happen.
It can happen.
It really can. You know, it's just time to bring the village back.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I
I'm
agree.
just going to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. God, I'm looking forward to the foundation.
Something's gonna happen.
Something's going to happen. Something good is going to come from this. And I just expect to keep hearing from you. And I will bring you back again
Okay.
and talk about the foundation. Because once it's started up, then we can say this is coming. Hopefully I can have the other guests. But I want to try to get you two together to meet up.
I would like that.
So
a lot.
I'm definitely going to, Lord's will, I'll get to see her maybe this Sunday or talk to her and let her know that I want to arrange a meeting for the two of you to actually just have a conversation. And, God, I see a beautiful bond being formed there because who can go and say, how do we move forward than two people from the same
That- that was
experience,
the same thing.
take that pain and turn it into purpose, because that's what I feel like this whole session has been. Your purpose has been found now, I believe, because I feel like as a mom, sometimes everything is all them, and now it's like, okay, who am I? Because your kids, everybody's adults now,
They're all
and
grown.
she seems to know who she's gonna be, so it's like, hey, I got this by my, and I'm okay, Mom.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm okay.
Yeah, my kids were, they were the rocks through this all. Like, I was amazed they were so strong. Like,
Yeah.
thank you, Jesus, for my
Yeah.
kids being so strong.
And that's
Because-
a lot of single moms.
Yeah.
We have strong kids that cover us, that hold us up. And it's like, wow, I didn't even realize. And then I have to say to you, like I hear it with me when I say about my kids, they say, well, where did they get it from?
Right.
They got it from you. And so that's a blessing that
It is a blessing.
they're there to keep you and to comfort you, because you didn't break.
Yeah.
You didn't break.
Yeah, I could have.
Yeah.
I could say, I so could have, but
Yeah, you didn't.
something kept me together.
And that smile when I saw you in Walmart, I said, and when I said, what's she doing? I was smiling.
Yeah.
And that was the smile that I remember that, when we were in school, we had a lot of laughs. And I know it took a lot to get that smile again.
I tell stories all the time
Oh, God.
about us back then. So funny. We had fun.
It
though.
was good to be normal.
It was.
It was good because we wanted so much and we just, we thought the world was our oyster. We was going to do everything. And I said, thanks be to God that it's not over yet.
Yeah.
So I always say he's a God of a second chance, which is usually like thousands of chances because every day you wake up is another opportunity. So whatever it is, your plans, keep pushing because it is something great's going to come from this. And a lot of support is going to come because I see Easton being the town that's going to shut down this mess.
Yeah, get it
Because
out of here.
this can't stay here. It's too much good if we come together and work together as a team and really build. I'm about learning about teamwork a lot. At work they always say at jobs, they say, well, what do you think about teamwork? Teamwork is everything.
Yeah.
And if we get a strong team in the community, because you didn't have to beg those mothers to come and get other people's children. You didn't have to beg the village to say, you know, watch them or keep them. They knew you had a second job and that you wasn't going to be home till a certain time. So they automatically said, I'll have them in bed.
Right.
They'll be asleep.
I'll make sure
Everything will
they're
be
fed.
kicked. I'll make
Yeah.
sure they're fed. So the same thing. We just have to start coming out. And like I said, wake that village up.
Yeah, I agree.
So Mel, until next time,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
And please tune in continuously for Conversations with Cherie, where we have real talk with real people, real conversations about real life. Join us again. Until next time.